Okay, which he probably needs to be filming this. I think one of the most important things about retail, especially clothing retail, because it's sort of confining and is that you have a excellent work ethic and you have to be passionate about what you do. And I can say amongst my siblings and Mary Kannon, we're very passionate about this business. So the history of Cannons started with Isaac George Kannon, who was from Hamana, Lebanon, which is a resort area of Lebanon at 16 miles northeast of Beirut. So my grandfather would sell milk and cheese and that sort of thing. And one day he was in this restaurant that he went to sell his products. And he ran across this young man that had just come back from America. And the man was ordering ham and eggs, which you didn't have like ham and eggs in Lebanon. And he was talking about America. And this Lebanese man was talking about how wonderful America is. It's the land of progress and opportunity. So he had saved up money. So when he saw that wad of money and this man talking about America, he thought to himself, I'm going to go to America long enough to earn some money and come back, and I'm going to buy that piece of property. Well, this was in 1905. And remember, he couldn't speak or write English. He was a young man in the late 20s at the time. So this was a very courageous endeavor on his part. My grandmother's brother, Joe Samar, was living in Raleigh and had a business here in Raleigh. He knew that that would be a contact for him, someone familiar with him to help get started, who has learned a little bit of English, and he would have at least some family that he could trust here. Well, in North Carolina in October is the state fair. And when my great uncle Joe picked up my grandfather from the train, he said, Isaac, tomorrow I am taking you to see the man that rules America. President Theodore Roosevelt and his wife were going to be at the state fair. So they went to the state fair, and on horse and buggy is President Roosevelt and his wife in his top hat. Well, my grandfather's eyes were as big as saucers. And in the excitement of everything, he lost his last $5 gold piece that he had. So he was devastated. But he was so glad to tilt his hat to the President of the United States. He felt like, oh my gosh, my first day here, and I'm meeting the man that rules America. So he was so excited about that. But my grandfather, Joe Samar, said, Isaac, don't worry about it. I'm going to lend you the money, and I'm taking you tomorrow, and we're going to buy goods and notions, linens, tablecloths, a little bit of clothing, and you can put it in a bag, in a sack, and I'm going to draw out a map for you, and I'm going to go with you the first couple of days, and we'll walk from Raleigh to Knightdale to Wendell, which was 15 miles. And then on Friday, we'll come back, because it will take a week to do that, and we'll drop in and go from door to door peddling for you to make some money. He would sleep in people's barns or out on the out in their fields. And one night, Russell, it was real cold, and he was out in this field, and he had this blanket. He thought he was going to freeze to death, and he prayed to the Virgin Mary and to the good Lord up above, and said, if you will please spare me tonight, please don't let me die. I promise you I will do something special for you one day. And that one day, I will tell you later in the story, was the founding of St. Eugene Catholic Church in Wendell that my grandparents founded. But to get back to this story, he paddled and didn't expect to stay this long. So he did this for 2 years, and he would write back to my grandmother. And then finally in 1907, he said, Zahaya, America is really a nice place. I'm going to send money for you, and I want you to bring Ferris and Mary, and you're going to come to America. And when she came, she found out that he was walking by foot, and she wanted to change that, and she wanted to buy my grandfather a horse and buggy, but she didn't want to tell him. So my grandmother learned to sew and made some money to surprise him with a horse and buggy. That is yours, and that's how you're gonna make your living. You're gonna ride in that horse and buggy instead of walking, and that will save you a lot of time, and it will be safer, and that's what I wanted you to do. And his dream was to have a storefront on Main Street. And those years from 1905 to 1914, he had made some very good friends in the town of Wendell, North Carolina, which is 15 miles east of Raleigh. And there was several families, one being R.B. Whitley, who was the wealthiest man in Wendell. He was the largest landowner, had businesses, and he befriended my grandfather. There was something in my grandfather that Mr. Whitley really liked, as well as a family, the Todd family. And my grandfather would spend the night with them on their farms a lot, and they really got to know my grandfather. So he said, Zahaya, when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do. He said, we're going to learn English. We'll only speak Arabic in our home, but we're going to learn English, and we're going to become a part of this community, and we're going to prove ourselves, and that way they'll get to know us better. And through the years, he proved himself, and everyone in the community became like family and good friends to my grandparents because they proved themselves through their character. My grandfather goes to Mr. Whitley's business, and he says, Isaac, come here, I want to show you something. And during the middle of the night, R.B. Whitley moved his niece out of her millinery shop, which was a hat shop, to across the street, and made 10 Main Street, the first building that my grandfather was to own, available for my grandfather to move into that store. So he did, and so he had like clothing, children's clothing, adult clothing, fabrics, different types of notions, tablecloths, anything that he thought he could sell, he sold. And that was the start of Cannon's.
They're like, who are you?
It was enforced and instilled in us too, Russell, that, it's hard being in a family business and all the siblings working together, and now Mary Kannon is fourth generation in our business, how to get along. And we had good examples growing up with my mother, my aunt, and my uncle. Because like I said earlier, we all lived together, so we had to learn civility. But my parents stressed that when you lock that door at night, you walk out as siblings and not as business partners. And in order to be good leaders in a business, you have to be good listeners. And George, Joanne, and I, we may not always agree on every idea or decision, but we'll come to an agreement because this business is very important to us and we want it to be successful. So we're willing to listen to each other's ideas, and we always pretty much agree and on the same page.
I mean, it's all the big things, as long as you have the same work ethic, same morals, and same vision, overall, those are the three big things, and you can solve all the little problems.
And when we do disagree, we have to have the argument.
Yeah,
we
but now it's
have
easy
to
with
really,
3. Usually there's a tie break.
Yeah, usually there's a tie break, but
but
we
we
have
have
to
to
argue our point.
Yeah.
We have to argue our point.
But we don't argue and get mad at each other.
No, we have to
say,
we have to
defend.
defend.
We have to
defend our opinion.
Yes, exactly. And that's important too, because you may see a product one way and I may see it another way, and you bring in a whole nother perspective. And once that's said, I say, you know what, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And do you guys have any plans to grow, like to open up new stores, or are you okay with yeah? Okay.
Good with the one.
Never say
We
never.
never say never.
We never know what other siblings might have, what they may have in store for the business.
Well, even though it's one entity, and I always tell my customers that it all goes into one basket, but we do run them separately. And that's the proper way to do it, really. We've been very fortunate that we get along so well. We have same priorities. We business-wise, we think the same, and it's boded well for us. It really has. So, and then we've got our fourth generation that has started with us too on the ladies' side, and hopefully I'll have a fourth generation in the men's store in a few years. Our true value, ladies and men's, it's always and will always be, we're at our best when the customer is in our store, in our presence. And so therefore, you can't be great at retail and e-commerce. You're either, one's gonna have to sacrifice for the other.
Yeah, I mean, but don't get us wrong. E-commerce and then social media is very, very important to us now, and then we're growing that just because it's another sales tool for us. Like so many times they'll look and they'll see, oh, I saw this online or I saw that online. I just want to try it on in person, but that's what got me into the store. So even if they don't even buy that one item that they saw on Instagram or on our website, they'll buy a few other things. So it's very important. But still, at the heart of what we do is the experience once you get
In a store, in that you pay the same, you don't pay any more, and you get service, you get a knowledgeable sales staff, proper alterations, you get all the amenities that you don't get by pushing a button. And That's what we hang our hat on. And we really believe that's what's going to carry us forward.
Wait, bye.